Hello, everyone. I'm Bear Wiseman, here to gather some geeks once again. This time I stepped outside of Finland's borders, ish, and I have the Mosfets with me, or at least half of them, with Keith and Ilari here, and I have heard rumors that you guys might be geeks.
Well, I'm not a geek. I'm a nerd. Geeks are smart.
I don't know which one I am, but I'm definitely either one of those. So yeah.
Hey guys, this is Bear Wiseman again. Just letting you know that there's a couple of hard segues in this episode that just are a result of the 40-minute Zoom time limit, which I haven't been able to smooth out quite yet. Sometimes there's a bit of a rough transition in there, so if you get a little confused or if you feel like it's jumped ahead, that's not you, it's me. Sorry about that, and otherwise, enjoy the show. So, what do you suppose is really the difference between being a geek or a nerd? Because I remember as like in my youth, I thought I'm definitely a nerd. I'm not a geek.
Geeks are
But
smart.
nowadays,
Geeks
I
are smart. See, this was a Simpsons reference from the '90s. I thought you would understand this one, and I was like, oh fuck, maybe I am the geek. Oh no. Yeah,
well, you're more
Millhouse said
Simpsons
that.
nerdy than me, I guess.
Yeah, this is something from Millhouse. I
Oh
think
yeah, I remember that.
Like Conan O'Brien wrote that. I think.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Fucking, I pull this out of there.
Yeah, nice nerd deep cut reference right off the
Yeah.
start. I
Well,
dig it.
you're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah.
Well, in our little prep chat, I think one of the first things that came up was that we have all read and or watched A Song of Ice and Fire slash Game of Thrones. I haven't actually dug too much into that particular slice of culture yet. So, how did you guys come across that series? Did you start with the show, the books?
You can go ahead, Larry.
It was the TV show for me first, Game of Thrones. Well, a lot of friends were watching it, so I started to watch it as well, and I really liked it up until the latest Notorious seasons. And then when it finished, I felt like, okay, now I really need to read the books, and I got my hands into the first volume, and then I just couldn't stop, and I'm almost finished. I mean, just waiting for Martin to finish the series, but yeah, that's how it went for me.
Yeah. For me, I think the first season of Game of Thrones came out and I watched it and I watched it in like a day. It was awesome. And I think Dance of Dragons had just came out. And so I used to commute from I used to live when I lived in Canada, I'd commute from Toronto to Hamilton or Hamilton to Toronto every day for work. 2 hours there, 2 hours back by like train or bus. And so all I did the whole time for that year was like read Game of Thrones or Ice of Fire because I have to say like the first few seasons of Game of Thrones was incredible, but I hate how much they skimmed out of it. And I try not to I've been trying not to think about game like the whole series recently because I don't know if it'll ever get finished. And I have to say it's some of like the most well-written fantasy novels in history. And it's so written that like it hurts my soul that like it's not finished yet. And so yeah, I've been kind of avoiding it a little bit lately, but Ilari's like right into it at this moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna hurt me as well when I finish this Dance with Dragons, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, you know
Because
what's terrible is that when Dance with Dragons came out, I there's something that pops up in like my Facebook memories every year or something that I was saying like, all right, just finished Dance with Dragons, really on
shit.
board for the rest of the story. Heartbroken that it's going to be probably 8 years before I get to read the next one, and it has been well over a decade or something at this point. The 8 years was a
Fucking
sad,
crazy.
sad guess at that point.
It's so sad because like the novels themselves are incredible. It's fucking incredible. And
Well,
yeah, it's yeah. It sucks.
The thing that I don't really understand at this point, and I have to just assume that George R.R. Martin is just almost like sick of his own story or something at this point. Like he probably knows how it ends. He probably doesn't
Wait,
care if the world finds out because he's so salty at this point. But
well, I think
like
I think he cares, right? He clearly cares, right?
I have no idea. I mean, if I had that much money, I would have finished my trilogy by now.
Well, I think like he got that money, he got that sweet HBO money at 70.
Mm.
You know, he was grinding, making like Twilight shit for, or not Twilight. Oh my God, no,
Wild
Twilight
cards?
Zone. Twilight Zone. Sorry,
Oh
he was making
yeah.
the Twilight Zone before.
I
He
don't
was
think I
grinding, making all this like other Hollywood stuff before as like a science fiction writer, and he got famous and rich in his like late 60s, 70s.
mm.
So you know, it's like he gets to go to all these conventions. People love him and they worship him. He calls them like his little like pets and shit. He's a weird fucking nerd. But yeah, I think I get it. He's like he's living his final days
Mm.
happiest as he can be. Dance of like the what was it, the prequel series? Was it House of the Dragon?
Oh yeah.
It's great. It's really great. It's probably just easier to write that kind of like prequel stuff. It's a lot more shorter than his huge massive series that has so many different ties and like yeah.
Was
I
he
just
actually doing the writing on that show? I wasn't
well,
sure.
he wrote the books.
Okay.
There's like, but they're much shorter kind of novel styles.
Yeah.
It's more like I haven't read it, but I think it's more like it tells a factual history of it.
Okay. So like those like because I remember like the Dunk and Eggs egg.
Yeah,
What
those
was
were
it?
actual novels.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
mini like novelettes or I don't what's I'm a writer and I should know what the difference is and I don't. So you can tell I'm
yeah.
unpublished.
Well, I think it has a bit of his like Silmarillions kind of thing.
Mm.
This is what that's the House of Dragon is because he kind of wrote a prequel for it and he had like an idea what it is, but then people, unlike the actual Ring of Powers thing, they actually did a good job and filled it in. You know, actually did it really fucking well.
Yeah. I've only watched half of that show still, I think.
Oh,
I
it's
don't
bad.
remember
It's
why,
bad,
but
bad, bad. It's bad,
I
bad, bad, bad.
oh, Rings of Power. No, I watched the whole thing there. The House of
Oh,
the
Rings
Dragon,
of
I've
Power.
only watched
You
half of.
like? Did you like Rings of Power? It was bad.
It hurt
The
me
one weird
deep in
scene
my
when
heart
she's
and soul.
that one weird scene in like the second episode where she's like riding the horse and it's like really magical. That's like it's weird. It's a weird fucking scene. I like it. I think it was beautiful. I'm like, this costs $1 billion.
Hmm. The
This was like this is like a $50 million scene. It looks great. What the fuck? What is the dialogue? What is going on here? It's crazy.
Mhm.
I love hearing how much people hate that show. It's come back around for me now because I hated it so much when I watched it. And then I watched the first episode again with a friend to show him how bad this show was. And then it was I spent the whole episode laughing because none of it made sense to me and billions of dollars were spent on it and I'm sitting here some unknown writer that nobody gives a shit about thinking like I could have done better without trying.
This looks like it looks like it was written by AI. This is what we have to expect from like the if the writer strike doesn't go well. We're gonna have a lot more shit like this. Just nonsense. Just terrible. What's the name? It starts with a G. I want to say Gabriella. I can't remember her
Galadriel?
name. Galadriel.
Just the
Galadriel is supposed
worst
to be
character of all
she's
time.
supposed to be 3,000 years old, but they like her character is like, oh, she's a young Galadriel. She's
She's
only
a petulant
3,000 years old.
teenager.
She's supposed to be like a teenager. It doesn't make any sense. She has like
You,
all this experience. Like,
you
I don't
know,
get it.
I must say, I went through something traumatic at the end of last year. I lost someone very dear to me. Putting in the work to get over it, I'm doing real well, and it hasn't been a year yet. She has been grieving for
Thousands.
hundreds of years
I don't know,
and
thousands,
hasn't
like a
gotten better.
thousands. Fucking crazy.
No,
It doesn't make any sense. And
no.
like I get it. She's on. She wants revenge. Like okay, it's cool. But she just like she's so whiny about it. Oh my! It could have like that. I get like I get the revenge story, but the way she acts throughout it is like so immature for someone who's supposed to be thousands of years old, who was
And
around during like back in Valinor. Like, what is that?
yeah, yeah,
Doesn't
she's
make any
basically
sense.
an old god, and she
Yeah,
behaves like a spoiled, like a little child the entire
yeah.
time. And I remember one of my friends saying, man, I hope I haven't said this in an episode before, but she was saying that like I can find this character believable if you frame her in the sense of like neuroatypical person who has a problem, and everyone she's ever known and loved is just telling her, girlfriend, you need therapy and a nap, and she's going on like 1,000 years of insomnia and a coffee buzz and refuses to listen to anyone. Okay, then maybe she's a believable character, but I'm also not in the practice of having to do extreme mental gymnastics to make anyone in my shows make sense. So,
I think part of what you said is right. The motivation is there. I get the motivation,
mhm.
right? I get her being annoyed and pissed off, but the way she comes, like, what was it?
She's a
I'm
bitch to
now
everyone.
bitch to everyone. She what was that prince that queen on the
Yeah.
island, Numenor. She goes and she's like a guest, first elf on there in like 500 years, and she's a guest, and she just starts making demands at them. Like, the audacity of that bitch. And she's supposed to be the protagonist.
Mhm. Yeah, you're
No.
supposed to like
Who's
her.
rooting for her? Who's rooting for her? I
There's
wanted to. Yeah. I don't know.
what what is it? It's there's a great YouTube channel that does these oh, I'm forgetting what it is, but it's talking about Galadriel of Amazon, the most perfect, wonderful Mary Sue you can ever come across. And
Oh, yeah.
it goes off for like 10 minutes just talking about how absolutely like in a very sarcastic manner, just how stupid the show is, and it's brilliant. It's better than the show.
Yeah. 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 I watched that show in parallel with watching House of the Dragon, and
Mm,
House of the Dragon is just like on another level. It's just so much better. You could tell they took the time. They took the time writing it. They really tried to develop like an idea, and like yeah, it's just significantly better.
mm.
Significantly better. Yeah.
They also didn't just like they made sense of the more like modern elements that they wanted to put in, like racial diversity and queerness and
Well,
stuff like that. They actually made
well,
sense in the House of the
it did.
Dragon.
It did though. So everyone was really up. I remember people being upset over. They start with a V. The no, I want. I'm mixing now. I'm mixing like Lord of the Rings and Song of Ice and Fire together. I can't remember the family, but like okay, so they were black, right? That family, and people were really upset because they were supposed to be related to the Targaryens, but like it actually made sense the way they presented it and the way they acted, how they were the seafarers. I could see from like an outside perspective, like, oh, this they're just trying to like blackwash this, or whatever. It just worked though. It made sense. And like when they actually put the time in to try to write it where it makes sense. And like, yeah, I don't know. It was great. But like when you just like force diversity into like something and it doesn't feel, you can tell when it feels right and it doesn't feel right.
Mm.
Like with
Yeah.
House of Dragons worked. It was like it made sense. But with Rings of Power, it felt so like we just need to put like a colored person here or someone of a different race here just for the sake of doing it, and then not give them any meaningful dialogue and just use them as
Yeah.
like a little plateau. That's fucking stupid. That's not how you do proper diversity.
Mm. I also noticed that they just spam black people all over the place. I didn't see any
Yeah,
significant portrayal of like Asians, Indians,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
like other people than black people. There are more than two races, in fact.
yeah. Exactly,
Like, where's
exactly.
everyone else now?
I mean, like Northern Africa are people of like different races too, or they could have done like Mordor could have made sense if it was more Middle Eastern as well. Like
Mm,
there are, yeah.
yeah. We were talking, I think, with some friends about like if you were going to make like kind of a racially segregated Lord of the Rings, how would you do it? And we thought, like Asian people are beautiful. They look young forever. They would be
Mhm.
perfect elves. You know, feel free to make your white people orcs. I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah.
If you want your white people to be the bad guys, that's fine. Put all the white people in makeup and, shove them under the mountains or something. I don't know. But like I think they could have done a lot better with
They could
all
have
of
done a
that
lot
money that
better.
they had.
It just shows like money doesn't equal taste.
No.
And Jeff Bezos does not have taste.
Proven.
George R.
Yeah.
R. Martin, he's still alive. He's still alive, and he can still make a damn good TV show. I'll give him that. When he's actually in control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about George R. R. Martin in a lot of ways, because I think, like, I used to read a lot about what was going on. I used to follow his blog and everything, because I was one of those people who was desperately clinging to my computer waiting for the next news on when the next book would come out, until I eventually gave up, of course. But there's kind of as someone who writes as well, I get it if you've lost steam or motivation or this or that, or if you've written yourself in a corner, because that was always what he was talking was the big problem with Dance of Dragons, that Daenerys, he had put her in a position that he couldn't really solve. He was calling it the Myronese knot, that the way he had made her character, it didn't make sense at that point, really, for her to
Her to
go to
leave.
Westeros.
Yeah, it did, because she just freed slaves. She was
with the
doing great.
people. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's making a life for herself in the East. She didn't need to go to Westeros. But then the TV show came out, and then you get all the fan theories, and then you get the things that have been confirmed from the show, like who was John's real parents and all of that sort of thing.
He reads people's comments. He kept reading people's comments, and they figured out what he was doing, and it upset him. He's a sensitive artist. I get it.
Yeah, that happens. But I feel like he's got a toolbox that he's maybe not using, because how many people wrote better endings to Game of Thrones and put them on YouTube? He can fish as much as he wants from that pool, and it doesn't matter if he's so inclined.
I think part of it is like, if we look at from like the novel perspective, right? He could go fish a bunch of these ideas from it, but if you look at like one of the reasons he was upset from so D&D, they cut out so much of, he wanted to have like 11 seasons because there was so much material they could have used, so many other characters that they could have developed, but instead they were like, no, we're going to trim it all up and we're going to get rid of a bunch of things. And then just like they got rid of Lady Stoneheart. I want to know what the hell Lady Stoneheart is doing for like a decade.
Yeah,
there's so many characters they could have used, and they just decided not to. There's so many arcs they didn't do. They combine all these things, and like I get why he's pissed off. Like I get why he's frustrated. There was so much material, they just decided like they could still be making Game of Thrones right now and probably right at the end of it.
Well, and I fully blame Benioff and Weiss for that, because they wanted to do their weird Civil War thing, and they should have passed it off to someone who gave a shit instead of trying to wrap it up too fast.
They wanted to do Star Wars. They were, that they were signed up to do Star Wars, and they just tried to okay, we have to get this done in 3 years. We're gonna do Star Wars right after, and then that's when you saw all the seasons crash. You saw them crash and burn because they wanted out. They should have just handed it off to someone else. But their egos, their bloody egos took over, and I hope they can. I never want to see anything from those douchebags again.
No,
I never.
absolutely not.
Yeah, they destroyed. They killed the golden goose, and I can't believe people are watching House of the Dragons after, because it's good. It's good. You can tell when someone actually likes the material.
I was surprised. I was really skeptical, of course, even though everyone said, no, don't worry, this one's legit. It's missing a little bit in the lack of like magic and mystery, but it's okay. I'm all right with medieval drama more than fantasy. That's fine. The only thing that I didn't like so far about House of the Dragon is just the rapid time jumps, because I feel like I'm not getting enough time to get to know the characters. Because I
That's kind of
believe there's like I watched 5 episodes, and I think there's like a 10-year jump to the next episode or something, and I'm like, what?
well, that's
I
by
don't.
design. That's by
Mm,
design because it wasn't like a real novel series,
mm,
right? It was like kind of a prequel, Silmarillion kind of book thing. It was a
mm,
bunch of wrap up of events, right? But I don't know. I think it's badass. I don't know. It does do a lot of jumps, but like, yeah, it's you gotta know that that's gonna happen.
mm.
Like, be okay
Well,
with it.
and it's more just like I think maybe things like are progressing a little too quickly for me, that I'm like, whoa, whoa, I need a moment with what's happening
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
and then suddenly 10 years are gone, and there's like whole other problems
The
they're dealing
children are growing up. Like, what is
Yeah.
going on here? Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not finished. I'm sure it's good all the way till the end. It's not my favorite of all time, but I think they really have done a good job with it. The actors have been really good, and the story
The
has been
guy,
good, and
what's the guy who plays Damien Targaryen? Damon Targaryen. He's a British actor who used to do Doctor
yeah,
Who.
he was in the
Man.
Doctor Who, wasn't he? I
Yeah,
don't
he was a doctor.
know.
Awesome. Love that guy.
Oh man, he's so
He's such a
creepy when he
dick.
wants to be.
He's so creepy and also like he's an anti-hero. He's a
Yeah,
total like he's not a good guy, but he's not really evil either.
yeah,
And sometimes he's a dick. Like, yeah, he murdered his wife because he didn't want to be with her anymore and he can't just get divorced.
yeah,
But like then he does like some pretty cool shit. And the actor is just awesome. Just
yeah.
awesome actor.
It's
Yeah.
it just seems like he has this story of like, I come from a line of maniacs,
Yeah.
and
And he really
I
plays the
really
part of the
want to be
maniac.
noticed.
Yeah, he's really and like I think his name is Matt something. Matt something.
Something like that, yeah.
He's just like that guy every time he's in anything, he's incredible.
Mm. Should see more
Yeah.
stuff that he's in.
Yeah.
I admit this is some anti-nerd cred, but I definitely have not probably seen a single episode of any of the Doctor Who's.
Have you, Larry? Have you seen any Doctor Who?
No,
Me
I also
either.
have not seen House of the Dragon or Rings of Power, but I do want to see the House of the Dragon,
It's good.
not the Rings of Power, because yeah,
Just skip it. Skip
I've
it.
heard enough. I've heard enough. And
It's not worth your time.
like I was saying before in the chat that we have, that life is too short to be wasted on crappy screenwriting. So, and speaking of Star Wars as well, so
Oh,
Mm,
but I'm gonna give House of the Dragon a try
mm,
later.
I recommend
Definitely.
it.
Mm.
Yeah, like there's so many Star Wars episodes, things have come out that I don't like it at all. I like The Mandalorian. You remember you mentioning, oh, the fly. You were mentioning you like The Mandalorian, like the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy. The sequel trilogy is there's some good ideas. Like I like the idea of the stormtrooper. The stormtrooper, like in the first, like I get the first like episode of the new of the last
Before
trilogy.
Force Awakens, yeah.
Yeah, Force Awakens. I
Yeah.
hated that they retold the story of blowing up the Death Star.
mm,
I hated that. But
Yeah.
the idea of like the stormtrooper who's force sensitive, that they should have just he should have been the main character. Like instead of like again like Ray was a Mary Sue. But imagine a stormtrooper. I thought I remember reading these theories about him becoming like he was in a start a huge revolt in the stormtroopers. If they focus on him becoming a Jedi and he was the main character, it would have been so cool. It would have blew everything away. It would have been awesome.
Something different for the series as
Yeah,
well.
it would have been exciting and it would have been different and it would have like yeah, it would have been racially diverse without forcing it to be. And like I would have loved it. I would have
mm.
loved it. That guy, that actor as well. He's from I saw him Attack on the Block. That's a great. It's a really. I saw him when he was younger. This movie. It's really good. Basically, there's like and he's a British guy. He's a British actor, and he plays like a kid in poverty. Him and his friends, like they live in a block. Like you know what a block is? Like those giant buildings. Like yeah, like really sketchy. And in the beginning of the movie, they rob this woman, one of their neighbors, right? Because they're sketchy hood kids, but then these aliens crash down, and then the hood kids have to protect everyone in the block. So he's like originally evil, or he's kind of an asshole, like this like wannabe gangster kid, but then he protects everyone. He's a great actor.
Amazing. Yeah, I was so disappointed in that trilogy. Like the Force Awakens, it was basically just A New Hope again, but
But it could have been something else. It could have done anywhere.
exactly. And the problem is that like there was so much personality in the characters, but if you were to watch The Force Awakens, like tell me anything about these characters besides Rey knows how to use the Force, this guy's a stormtrooper, and this is a pilot. Tell me about their personalities.
Uh,
They're Bella from Twilight. They have nothing.
they're
They
fake
have
funny.
no
Fake
personality
funny.
at all.
Yeah.
It's
They're fake
terrible.
funny. You know,
And-
okay, Kylo Ren was a whiny little baby boy, which was funny. And like I like that guy again, he's a great actor. Like
Yeah. Darth Whiny. He was
yeah, Darth Whiny. Darth Whiny.
Darth Daddy issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
He wasn't as cool as most bad guys, but he was interesting. But
Yeah, there was a lot of potential in there, like introducing these characters, but then it didn't really go anywhere. But I remember people were complaining the same about the episode #1, the Phantom Menace, that none of the characters
the dialogue
had any. Yeah, the dialogue, they didn't really have any personality. And again, that described these characters without describing like what they do in the movie or what is their role in the movie. So
I hate sand.
yeah,
I hate sand. Or
it
like,
got a bit better in the especially in the third trilogy, but the first one, yeah.
But the idea of like I hate sand, when really it could have been like my mother was a slave and I was a slave. I had all this trauma back on this planet. I don't want to go there. Instead, he goes, "I hate sand." It's like I mean, it's like it's there's so many better ways to describe this if you just had like proper dialogue. But like I can let it go with the trilogy, with the prequel. Like there's some really good moments there. There's some good moments there that are likable. With the sequel, it's like, man, it's hot garbage. But then they kept putting out more hot garbage. It's like, you know, that one guy who's in the scene. It's like some random guy in some random scene. We did a whole 10 episode series on him.
Are you talking about Andor?
Yeah, like you know, one guy in one scene. Like I don't like you probably might remember him. No, 10 episode series on him.
Yeah.
What is this?
I will say, if you enjoyed Rogue One, Andor was actually pretty good as a show. It starts slow, and you think that it's gonna be pretty predictable, like, okay, this is a heist show. Sure, they're much like Rogue One before it, this is a thing where rebels are stealing shit from the Empire. Okay, it's pretty straightforward. It wasn't at all. The heist was over after like halfway through the season, and then it's just a whole bunch of other stuff. I actually really enjoyed it. It was a little slow to start, a little bit like, okay, but why do I care about this guy?
Okay, yeah, that's how I feel. I'm like, why do I care about this person? What's going on?
But
like,
that was actually pretty good. I
like,
enjoyed it.
Look at the Book of Boba Fett. The Book of Boba Fett. They took so the best, like the Boba Fett is barely in the original trilogy. First off, there's a lot of like fan stuff about him. People love
such fan service.
There's so much fan service, but they took all the good ideas about Boba Fett and put in the Mandalorian, like how he's an outlaw, he's a badass, and then they just try to shove Boba Fett in there when like all the good parts of him are already in this other character. And then they're like, you know what? You're gonna be a cowboy now. You're gonna be this like you're gonna go and be some sort of like underground warlord thing, and just like it doesn't make any sense. I tried to watch like an episode of it, and it was just not good, not good.
Yeah, I mean, Book of Boba Fett is just waste of your fucking time. Like all the are we allowed to swear in this podcast?
I've been cursing the whole time, so
I'm an old dirty sailor. I swear all the fucking time.
Good. So I mean, every episode of Book of Boba Fett was the same, and like he just I don't know, that character was written so badly. He just went along with what everyone else told him all the time, and he was supposed to be the new crime lord, and he almost gets killed in every episode, and always someone else saves him. And the other characters can also be, yeah, some of them are really bad. Like that Power Rangers squad as well. Like
Power Rangers squad. Why?
That sounds horrible.
yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I gotta say, biggest missed opportunity in Star Wars for me personally is just because I'm such a person who believes in balance and everything in moderation and good and bad and equal flow. Why was the whole point of Rey and Kylo not to introduce the Grey Knights as the true Jedi? It would be so good because they embrace the light and the dark side of the Force, and that felt like what their journey could have been, and it would have
But
been.
that wasn't the point. The point was like each episode was written by a panel of people who were just looking at statistics of what would be popular. They had no fucking destination. There was no destination at the end of this. They just want to write something that like was written by fucking panels and by people voting for something that they thought would sell the most toys. That's what was important to them. It wasn't a good story.
I am about to get in to why Frozen 2 was a travesty.
I haven't watched it. I don't want to.
You shouldn't. It was a
Okay.
travesty. But I genuinely believe that movie was written because, fact, Anna and Elsa were never Disney princesses. Anna and Elsa are their whole own thing because they're so popular because of Frozen. Frozen 2, I believe with 100% certainty, was written because they needed to make both of them queens so they couldn't be princesses. And there's like a cat moving my camera. And yeah, they can't be princesses because they're their own franchise, so we need to make it make sense that both of them are queens, and it's a terrible movie. It's just awful.
I believe you.
All right, we're back again after our mandatory Zoom break. So, yes, we were talking about how Frozen 2 is corporate garbage, and Rings of Power is corporate garbage, and a lot of Star Wars is corporate garbage. You know, it wasn't corporate garbage. The 2000s era remake of Battlestar Galactica, because that was Game of Thrones in space with the deep-seated what is humanity in as
That's
like
so
the
good.
center of like what that whole story was about. Like these AIs like look and genetically like they're almost exactly the same as humans, but they're different and they're bad and they're the enemy. And damn, was that a good show?
It
And
was a good show. Like
you
Kate Sackhoff is in it. I think she's
Katie
also in The
Sackhoff.
Mandalorian.
Oh
Man,
yeah,
I love her. She's so good in that. She's
Crazy
such a
Thrace
badass.
is
Such a
like
badass.
one of my
Yeah.
soul creatures. Just the degree of like badass plus batshit insane that she exists on
She's
at all
great. She's
times.
great. Yeah.
The only disappointment I have on that show was just that her and her two on and off boyfriends, I'm convinced should have been in a polyamorous relationship with each other, all of them.
This
Because
is the early 2000s. That was not,
it's
yeah.
too
If
soon.
yeah, too silent soon. If it was now though, they definitely would be.
Oh, I mean, like those dudes had a little bit of a like, if we weren't in love with the same woman, we'd have a bromance thing going on.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm pretty
definitely,
sure
definitely.
that show would have been at its best if just they were all in love with each other.
Yep, yep.
Now watch the like religious flame war coming
Yeah.
through the
Wasn't there like a prequel series that did not work out? I didn't watch any of it.
I'm not sure because
There was a prequel series that didn't work out at
I
all.
I think that was the one thing we didn't watch because it was just supposed to be not that interesting.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but the pitch for this show really is that like as I said, Game of Thrones in space, because what I loved about Game of Thrones, what I always loved, like with the Song of Ice and Fire as well, was that way that there was no bad guy per se. I mean,
Mhm.
there's some like pretty evil
Many
people who show up, but in any moment, it was just so true to humanity of this. You've got like the general and the president who Like, I have my morals, and here's a situation. Either of them can be the bad guy based off their past, their beliefs, their everything, and it felt so Game of Thrones to watch it, only with an actually decent ending.
Yeah, the ending's really good. I like the ending.
Axe that last scene. Just axe that last scene. That's the like dumb American scene for me. But
I don't
everything
remember
else is good.
I don't remember the very last scene, but I
When
remember like when.
well, it's just like when they're on like modern day planet Earth in the end.
Oh yeah, besides that, but like before when they actually go to the planet, I like
Oh,
that.
no, that's all good. Just that last
Yeah,
scene where they're
yeah,
in
yeah,
modern day Earth. Drop that. That you don't
yeah.
need that. Everything else
Yeah.
just so good. So
Okay, the pitch for the show, Larry. Um, it takes place different planet, highly advanced human civilization. They previously had a war against the AI, right? These robots, and they
Cylons.
won the Cylons. And then all of a sudden, the Cylons show back up, and they are synthetic humans. You cannot tell the difference between us and them. And they can astral project kind of thing. They can see within their own. There's some sort of astral projection thing they can communicate. That's like the kind of difference. They have some advantages. They're also beautiful and yeah,
Yeah,
they're interesting.
what's
But then they wipe out humanity. Fucking first episode, humanity's wiped out. Only thing that's left is one Battlestar,
they
and
bombed
then
like 12 planets to absolute shit.
trillions of people die.
13 planets, something.
Only thing that's left right now is one old ass Battlestar, right? And all the Cylons who've come are after them,
Mm,
and they have to get out because they're the only
yeah.
pieces left of humanity.
Yeah. There's the first two episodes are kind of like a mini series that just
Yeah,
sets up like it. The first two episodes are like, I don't know, an hour long each or something, and they take place during the like, okay, so we have this like peace station where we meet with the Cylons once a year to ensure that peace remains, but after they left however many decades ago, they've just been gone. And then just one day they show up again with this human looking woman.
yeah.
And and then as this human looking woman just shows up and weirdly starts making out with the dude, just then all around them like planets start exploding. And then this Battlestar just happens to be like it was a classic Battlestar, so it was
It was
never hooked
retiring.
up to the
Remember it?
network.
Yeah, because it was retiring.
Yeah, it was supposed to be
Yeah,
turned into like a museum on the day this happens or something.
yeah.
And
They're
and then
already retire. Yeah.
the first episode, like I get anxiety just thinking about it because like every time they faster than light jump, it takes them exactly like 37 or something really small, 37 minutes for the Cylons to catch them and start
Mhm.
blasting the shit out
Yeah.
of them. So, oh, just like you can see all of these people just like, I haven't slept and I have to make decisions that affect the rest of humanity and just and
Yeah.
that's like what the show is. And
But their hope though, they find hope was there was 13 tribes, 13 tribes of planets. Or so there's 12 tribes of planets, but there was a 13th tribe that they know of. It was a magical 13th tribe, and they know it's somewhere out there. It's called Earth. So they
yeah,
have to find Earth. And that's I'm not gonna tell you any more from there.
too much
Mhm.
spoilers from there on out, but
Yeah. Watch
Yeah, I
it.
mean, I know the concept of this because it's pretty old franchise as well, is it
But
not?
it really holds up. The CGI, everything.
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
good. It
yeah.
holds up.
All right,
And
yeah, I'm gonna watch it. I believe you.
and one thing that I really loved about it that you have a problem with in a lot of sci-fi is that A, you're not coming across any aliens that magically speak English or anything like
Mhm.
that. You don't have any laser beams. They shoot bullets
Yeah.
in
They're
space.
shooting missiles and shit. They're
They
fucking
shoot
things
just
up.
straight up
Nuclear
bullets.
bombs. Like,
Yeah.
Mm.
That's just like it's not overthought, overcomplicated sci-fi, which I've always been more of a fantasy over sci-fi kind of person, but Battlestar Galactica really just that was if you were gonna convert me to sci-fi, that was the show to do it, really.
Not Next Generation. It would be Battlestar Galactica.
I haven't watched the original one though, but I like having read a bit about it. It seems a lot simpler and it seems kind of silly. I'm not gonna
It
lie.
is kind of okay. So I watched all. There's a lot of Star Trek I like.
Mm,
So I like Next Generation. That's good. Voyager is good. There's a few that are really good. There's a
mm.
lot that are terrible. And
Sorry, I was
but
talking
next.
about the original Battlestar Galactica. That's
Oh, I was talking about the
original
Star Trek.
Star Trek is very silly, but I think it's funny. So
Yeah, yeah. I
like
read this. I read this thing recently about Patrick Stewart when because he's like a classical theatrical actor, right? And when he got that role, he signed up for 5 years, but he thought it's like, yeah, this is the first time they ever remade a TV show before. We're gonna be done it in a year. It'll get bombed. He just wanted to get a paycheck, right?
mm.
And then it blew up, and people started showing up to all these fucking nerds started showing up to his like theatrical gigs wanting Captain Picard, and he's like, I'm an actor, like I'm a real actor, and he was so mad at it. He hated Star Trek at first, and then he started liking it. He started liking it. That's why they started writing these episodes that are more like they have these weird kind of like theatrical things where like, all of a sudden he's in a Shakespearean play that's like in this holodeck. That's because they wrote that for for Patrick. Um and the same kind of thing happened with Ian, what's his name? Ian, he's from Lord of the Rings. Also
Oh, Ian
Magneto.
McKellen.
Yeah, again, he's a classical actor. I know like those two were friends. I think he's the one that like had the conversation with them and just learn to lean into it and enjoy it. Because they both came from that old like actor background where you had to be really serious all the time and that very serious kind of actor. And then they warmed up to their kind of sci-fi fantasy roles. And those two are my favorite for that sort of thing.
Beautiful.
Who's the actor that plays the white wizard? Not Ian,
Christopher
the
Lee.
other. Sorry?
Christopher
Christopher
Lee.
Lee?
Christopher Lee. Do you guys ever see I watched his interview from the director. And so Christopher Lee, he was the idea of James Bond was written about him. The
Wow.
whole idea of James Bond. So he was in World War II. James Bond was written on him. He was at one point almost married like a princess of like he almost married some like Scandinavian princess. The guy was wild. And so there's that scene where like he's that last scene that he's in where he gets stabbed when he's on top of the tower, right? The director's like, okay, you gotta make noises kind of like this, like you're being stabbed. He's like, well, I can make the noise that you actually make when you kill someone, when you stab someone. They're like, okay, like, and that's like if you listen to that scene, that's like he was in World War II, he fucking stabbed people, and he just like so he makes that noise.
I have to go back and watch that.
Yeah, I go watch it like because he knew what he was doing.
Wild. Did you
Yeah,
know
yeah.
he has a metal band? Or had, I suppose?
He released a metal album in like his 70s. The guy was
But like
literally James
recently
Bond.
too. He
Yeah,
did so much stuff just so randomly, and his metal album was actually not half bad.
he died. He died a few years ago.
Yeah, that's such a shame. I mean,
Yeah.
no one can live forever, but he was
Man, that
just
guy
great.
did. He did everything. He did everything. He's based. James Bond is based off him. He's awesome. He was in Lord of the Rings. That guy, like, unbelievable,
So
unbelievable
great.
actor.
I don't know why I always tend to confuse him with Charles Dance, who was Tywin Lannister in Game of Thrones. For
Yeah,
some
they
Yeah,
kind of
reason,
look
super
alike.
vibe.
they
Yeah.
they flip in my mind every once in a while.
But
But
it is that kind of old school actor that like
yeah,
that's
Chuck,
serious, like an actor. Like,
yeah, I think Chuck Dance
Yeah.
is one of those guys as well.
yeah,
And
yeah, for sure.
His very charismatic, booming voice as well, and
yeah,
all
oh,
about that classic training. So
he
That
was
classic. Does
perfect.
anyone do that classic training anymore? Because like modern
yeah,
actors
they
don't
do.
really do that at all.
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
Do they?
Maybe
yeah,
if
they
they're more
do.
like into theater, perhaps. I'm not sure.
But can you think of any famous like kind of a modern version of a theater actor like that? In anything.
Damn, no,
Just name one thing.
not
Name
offhand.
one young person who's doing that. That's like
Well, I mean, I just imagine it's different with the
Mm.
because back in those when those guys were young, it was all about that. But
that's what I mean. But like there
yes,
has if you claim that they're still teaching that, right?
yeah,
Is there any young people in shows or any sort of media that are doing that?
That I wouldn't know, but I would imagine that they would not take a person like that for a modern TV show, because that's not the style that they are going for there. Or they have like different background of different education there as well. I used to date a person who graduated with the theater. You say, yeah, with the theater, basically the writing and directing and all of that. So yes, they do study a lot of different styles in there, in
But
those
those
schools.
styles aren't really popularized anymore.
I mean, you just need to. It's just all about that you try out different stuff. It's like studying music. You just try different things and see what works for you, the best for you, and then you just you want to be as versatile as possible, but also to have your own specialty in there. So yeah.
I would almost wonder if perhaps people with that training maybe aren't that amped up on Hollywood movies because
That
they're
too.
better than that. Maybe they just want to stick to theater or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So
I know
they look
mean,
down. They look down on them. Like Patrick Stewart again looked down on Star Trek.
Yeah, I do know a couple of actors in Finland. I know a guy, for example, who he and his wife played Eric and Ariel in The Little Mermaid here. It was in Finnish. I didn't go, unfortunately. I should have, but it happened during it was playing during Corona, and I think it maybe got canceled during the pandemic, so I was never able to make it to see. But I don't know that those theater actors tend to look for a lot of movie placements. I think if they get kind of set up in a theater that they like what the productions are going on, then they're maybe more likely to stick to that. I don't really know.
Exactly.
Not not an actor. I know metal music, and that's about it.
Yeah, and Finland is such a small country and small markets anyways, that all the actors that you see on TV and movies, it's always the same faces in there, and vice versa when you go see theaters then. So
yeah, and it's very, very hard to get into acting here too. They take so few people. I know I have one friend who's a very good actor, and he's been trying to get into the schooling for it, and I don't even know if at this point he's given up, because he tried like 5 or 8 years or something with no luck. So
because there's only one school, only one university level theater, and it's extremely difficult to get in there. Yes, I know all about that.
Yeah.
On that note, I used to do background acting.
Really?
Yeah, I was in this murder mystery TV show. And so I did a background acting thing for it, and basically I just want to try it because I thought it was fun. It was like, yeah, I'm down to be like a high school student. I'm just like 25 and I'm playing a high school student, right? And like they shave my face. I'm like, yeah, I'm good. They're like, okay, you look like a child. I'm like, cool. So I'm doing this show because I went there and I didn't give a fuck. I just want to have fun. I thought it was a cool thing to do, just like see what happens. But then there's people who are there because like they want to get in. They want to make friends with the director. They're trying to like kiss ass, do everything they can. And because I didn't give a shit, they kept giving me things. So there's like a scene of me playing basketball. There's a scene where I have this like whole dialogue with this like with the main actor, and there's another scene like where like the main actor comes down to this party scene, comes down these stairs, and they're like, yeah, I think it's a party, blah blah, and everyone comes down. I like for whatever reason I threw my drink at the guy, just like it was like an empty cup. I threw it. I'm because like it was a big party thing, and they're like, and then it stopped. Everyone went quiet, and the director went, brilliant. Everyone was like, really, oh no, he did that. And the guy went, awesome. Like, he really liked that idea. And then I got offered to be in another movie called Goons. You ever heard of Goon or a Goon?
I've heard of the Goonies, but
no, it was Goon. Basically, so this is in Hamilton, Ontario. And Goon was like that hockey movie about that, like the last great brawler in hockey. I was supposed to play a cop, but I was like, I had a normal job. I was like an engineer. I'm like, I'm not gonna take time off to be a cop. Like, but now like I have a friend here who like and they book like background acting things. So I might get back into it.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. I they want my headshots. They're gonna put me in their thing. Let's see what happens.
Awesome.
So Keith, do you have a profile in IMDb then, if I look you up now?
You can try. I don't think I do. I don't think I do.
You would have to imagine that that's so like cutthroat and people trying to like leave an impression all the time that like I imagine that that must just be exhausting for people to just have like some normal person come in and be like, "Hey, whatever, let's do this. I have
Yeah,
no horse in this race at all." Must be just perfect for them.
I think
Everyone else is
because
probably overthinking way too hard.
I just didn't give a shit. I just want to have fun, and they kept giving me things because of this. I think it's kind of like that even in music. If you don't give a shit
Yeah.
and you're trying to make cool art, if you just in music, just make cool art that's fun for you and have a good time. Like people they'll like it or they don't like it, and it doesn't fucking matter. Like
Yeah, I was about to make that comparison as well. It sounds a lot like that, like
yeah,
music, popular music stuff.
yeah. Like okay, look at the top 10 right now. Have you actually listened to the top 10 music right now? It's fucking bad, bad. It's
I
bad.
have not looked at the top 10
I,
since I was
like,
probably 13 years old at
I'm
this
not even
point.
joking. If you actually go take the time, listen to it, a lot of them aren't even songs. They're like 1.5 minute clips with like a chorus.
Mm,
And it's like these things are popularized because like platforms like TikTok that are playing the same piece over and over and over and over again. They don't
mm,
need the right. There's no bridges. There's no like key changes. None of that shit happens anymore. And it's all the exact same beats. It's all sampled the exact same. A lot of that stuff happens now because it's like it's popularized through TikTok. It's easy to formulate. It's very formulatic. It's easy to put out. And record labels don't want to take risks on anyone
mm,
anymore. Look at like I'm not a fan of Ed Sheeran. I'm happy he won that lawsuit recently
mm,
because they were literally trying to copyright chords, like a chord progression. Just like four chords that are in a billion songs, you cannot copyright a style. You cannot copyright that. And like this is why if they had won that case, all music is done. All because all music is derivative. It all comes from something else. And if you copyright that, nothing else can happen. And like,
mm.
why would any record label, any large record label put any money into something they're gonna get sued for? Everyone's gonna sue each other. Like the next big thing is like AI generation with people's voices. That's gonna be terrible. Like I
Yep.
watched a I watched a clip today. Um I watched a clip today from Timberland and he's like, "Oh man, like I always wanted to work with Biggie. He's like a big Biggie fan. I finally got to be able to do it." So it's like a Timberland beat and they took Biggie's voice, not any of his words, Biggie's voice, and they just wrote another song with it. It's like that's grave robbing. That is fucking grave robbing. You're gonna get people like if someone starts singing a new John Lennon song, I'm be pissed. I'd be pissed
No
off.
kidding.
They're grave robbing now.
Yeah. I remember they were trying to bring Ronnie James Dio back in like a hologram or something, and I was just like, why would
Yeah,
I
this is
want
new
to see
hologram.
that?
Why would I want to listen? People will listen to it though, especially
Yeah.
like, oh, it's such a terrible, terrible, terrible thing.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know if we can talk about that, but this is a nerd cast. Like, music nerd cast. Sorry.
Nerdcast into like how fucking awful AI is until the legislation gets sorted out at least.
I'm not even fully against AI. I'm not even really like it just depends on how it's used,
Exactly.
right? And like if it's tastefully used in like an artistic way, that makes sense. But if you're grave robbing people's goddamn voice and putting like that's the way you make these songs though. It's like you have some guy who sings like a melody, right? And then you use this software to put their voice over top of that melody that you wrote. And that's fucked. That's so bad. That's so bad. But like how do you like write copyright laws for that? Like
Yeah.
what if we get like political candidates? Like oh, I want to ruin this guy's political career right now. I'm gonna deep fake him dropping the N bomb a bunch of times and like do all this crazy shit, say things that don't represent him or them at all. That's like that's when things are gonna get crazy. Or even now look at like I read recently about deep fake porn. Have you heard about this?
No, you're
Oh my
reminding
God.
me of a weird
Deep
show
fake
episode I just saw.
fake porn is happening now. To me, it's like the equivalency of like, do you remember Is Anybody Up?
No.
Remember that? It was like, okay, Is Anybody Up was a website. Oh my God, Hunter Moore. This guy, what he would do is people would submit their exes to this site of their nudes, and then he would post it and
Oh,
then tag
right.
their social medias. This is before like there was laws against like sharing intimate photos. But
Mm.
now there's this AI porn where you literally can use this software and you can like put like Hermione Granger's face on someone, or you can put like just like a small like creator, their face or body type onto someone else. It's so terrible. You like there needs to be some sort of regulations against this, because it's only going to get crazier. It's only going to get crazier.
Well, I literally just picked up, there was a show I was watching a couple years ago that was very strange. It was called Crazy Ex-Girlfriend.
Mhm.
And I just picked it up. There's like two new seasons since I stopped watching it. And the first episode is straight up this girl like gets left at the altar because her fiance decided to go become a priest. So she was going to make like a fake sex tape with him, shouting during his climax how much he hates Jesus or something like that. And that's basically exactly what
So if
you can
someone
do with
does
that.
that, if someone does that, there's no laws. There's no laws in place right now to stop them.
Man, do you remember back in the day when like the big news about lawsuits was whether or not people were killing themselves because of Twisted Sister lyrics or something like that?
Twisted Sister lyrics. Twisted Sister was cool though.
Yeah, no, like that was a whole thing in the 90s or something that like everyone just assumed that metalheads were dumb morons. And then D. Snyder walks into that courtroom,
Yeah,
tears it
Congress.
all back, and just schools all of them legally.
Have you guys ever
And
seen
no
that?
one
Have you ever
saw
seen
it
that?
coming.
Oh, it was so good. They invited him to like to mock him. They invited
Yeah.
him to mock him,
And
and
he
he
made
came
a
in there.
mockery of
He
all of
he
them.
he ripped apart Al Gore. There, like he ripped apart Al Gore. I saw that actually like 2 months ago.
Uh,
Like there's like a reclip of it. And it was like, wow, like Dean is a lot smarter than people give him credit for.
it's magical. Just
Yeah, it was good.
wonderful.
But like again, like these kind of a lot of these, I don't want to say conservative outlets, but these like kind of they're not conservative, like maybe not conservative outlets the wrong thing, but a lot of them like uh what was controversial in the 90s? Like look at like Bart Simpson, for example. Eat my shorts. People were freaking out over a cartoon character saying eat my shorts. Now look at that. That is nothing. That is fucking nothing.
You can swear. They swear all
Yeah.
the time on The Simpsons now.
Yeah.
I think like easing off on a lot of the like religious mandatory rules has opened things up a lot as well. Like I remember being in like elementary school and getting in trouble for saying, "Oh my God."
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. Don't take the Lord's name in vain.
Yeah, it was still like bad and scary
Uh,
to do that.
was it like that for you, Larry?
No, but yeah, no swearing. No, that was bad in school.
I
I,
went
I
to a Catholic school. I went to Catholic school. I had to wear like
ooh,
uniforms and everything. Tuck my shirt
dang.
in. If I my
No, I'm
first,
talking about actual swearing here.
yeah, it was bad.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, like but then like back in the day even before, if you said like curses, then someone would like stab you to death.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Curses. Ugh. Yeah. So Disney sucks. Fuck Disney. They bought up everything that was good. They destroyed it. There's a writer strike right now. They're going to try to replace writers, make them into the gig economy bullshit. You hear about that? Okay, what
I I saw
they
there's something up with the like
they
Writers
want
Guild of America or something, but I didn't look into it yet.
they want to treat writers like Uber drivers. Like they will not have full-time jobs and they will replace them with AI. And that's what they're doing right now. They're trying to replace writers with AI, with Chat GPT. And like we're gonna get honestly, ChatGPT probably write about as good of the shit that they're writing in Disney anyways. Like they're not doing a good job, and they're not letting writers do a good job. And yeah, I think it's just gonna get worse. It's just gonna get worse from there. And I really hope the writers win on this one.
I really hope so too. That would be devastating.
Yeah, yeah. Like I think I read today, they've like, just in Hollywood, they've lost like 10-20 billion dollars just in the past few days from this. Just like the revenue losses from this stuff is like it's insane, which could cover everything that they want easily. Yeah, yeah.
Grief. There needs to be like money caps on people. No one needs
Yeah.
$1 billion. What are you going to do with $1 billion? They don't spend it. If you have a
No, they
billion
hoard
dollars
it.
in your bank account, you're a dragon. You're an old. That's exactly what Tolkien was writing about with Smaug. He was a boomer. Smaug was just a boomer. He's
Smog was a boomer
sitting
for sure.
sitting on his hoard of wealth while Saruman destroys the environment. Smaug doesn't share, he just keeps it all to himself and squats on it and tries to murder anyone who tries to take it away from him, even though it wasn't his in the first place.
Yeah.
Smaug was just
Yeah.
a dirty old boomer.
Dirty old boomer. Terrible. And then they made Rings of Power.
Yeah. Sure, Tolkien is just rolling in his grave somewhere. Just what have you done?
What have you done? What have you done? Yeah. I don't know. I'm really not into these old estates of artists. So like look at like I talked earlier about Ed Sheeran though
Mm.
being sued. Like these old estates, like the Marvin Gaye estate, suing younger artists just because this song made a bunch of money or this platform made a bunch of money. And it's kind of similar to us. It's basically like patent trolls. You ever heard of a patent troll?
Mm.
It's like there's like an artistic equivalency now of this. There's people who write a very broad patent and they just try to sue everyone for this.
There's a great comedy skit that you can find. It's got to be pretty old at this point. And I think you can find it if you just search "I hate Pachelbel's canon" in D or something.
Okay.
But it's a guy who's doing a bit. He's playing on the guitar and he's talking about how when he was young, he played cello. And Pachelbel's canon in D has the worst cello part of all time because it's literally just like 5 notes that you repeat. And then he starts talking about how he can't escape it. And then he just starts playing all of these modern pop songs over top of Pachelbel's canon in D. And he covers the entire 90s. Just
Really?
all of the greatest hits of the 90s with this.
Okay.
All
So
right.
I'm rereading Dune. I'm halfway through Dune. It's been a while. It's been many, many years. Uh
I
Fucking love it.
need to read that. I have
So
not
good.
read.
You need to read that. Yes.
Man,
I
Really
everything's
good.
based off this. Every Star Wars, everything. It's all based off of Dune. When did Dune come out? What year?
I'm just
60 something.
reviewing Peace of Mind by Iron Maiden for its anniversary. That came out in 1983, and they have a song based off Dune on that album. Which is funny, incidentally, a little like metal nerd cred and Iron Maiden nerd cred. Apparently, they asked Frank Herbert's like agents whether or not they could call the song Dune, and the response was, Frank Herbert is not a fan of bands, heavy bands, and especially bands like Iron Maiden.
Well, they're a fan of you, man. Sorry. That's
So
how
now the song's
inspiration works,
called To
baby.
Tame a Land instead of
Uh,
Dune.
Man,
Mm.
fucking Dune is awesome. It's like the premise of this story is so it's a Messiah story kind of, but the idea is like you shouldn't follow charismatic leaders.
Hmm.
Even if like Paul Atreides, he's a good person. He genuinely is a good person,
Hmm.
but he still causes a fucking genocide.
Yeah.
He's still the cause of a genocide, and he made it worse by trying to be a good person. He's a charismatic leader who manipulates people, and he knows he's manipulating people all to fulfill some fucking goddamn Benny Gesserit Messiah prophecy, all because they want to make a superhuman, and he's a superhuman, and he's taking some damn psychedelic shit, and he's just pressing into seeing to the future. It's fucking crazy.
So he just like did some DMT and they think he's gone.
But the spice is like The way I like it, I think I read it. I just read it a few chapters ago. Like the way he describes prescience, it's like, yeah, like if with your normal vision, you can't like see around the corner, right? You can't see down the street. Same with prescience. It's like you have to be looking in the right way to see into the future. I found that was really interesting.
That's
It's like,
cool.
okay, like you can see through the fourth dimension. He can see the thing called the golden path. So like he's like he sees if humanity doesn't change, they're going to become extinct. And he knows that they're going to become stagnated, and something else is like the idea is something else will eventually come. It'll take over, it'll destroy them. They know, like, so he doesn't do it. He tries to, like, he only has a little bit of a jihad genocide, and it's not enough of a jihad genocide. And so his son does it. He does 3,000 years of tyranny, and he squishes humans for thousands of years to harden them until a certain section of people come about who can block his prescience. But he basically hardens humans to the point where the moment he's dead, they fly out into the universe. And they're so hardened by him that they can survive anything.
Ew.
So the
Nothing
idea
worse
is
than humans that can survive anything.
well, that's kind of like what the free men on in this book are. They're basically they're desert people, right? And they're so hardened by how terrible this planet is. It's so hard to live there, but they're so strong because of it. They're so strong and so tough by it. But then like all come like Apollo Trady comes there and he helps him like, yeah, we're gonna get you guys water on this planet. And it's kind of like that classic colony story, but they tell it as like from his perspective, he's even kind of mixed feelings about it, and it's not a good thing. And in the end, you find out it's not a good thing that he did this. He destroyed the Freeman's way of life. He changed them.
That's fucked up.
It's a great. It's like even like he wrote these really great premises about like, even about colonization, and just from the other perspective of like it happening, and you watch these people, you read about their whole way of life get changed because of him, and not like I guess in a good way, depends on your perspective. Like it destroys their culture. They change religions around him. He's a religious figure.
That is a pretty white person story in the end.
Is it a white person? No, but it's a warning against this this story. It's a warning against this. That's he's in the end, even though Paul Atreides was good, he wasn't good. It's don't follow charismatic leaders.
Okay. I'm gonna full bring this back around to Game of Thrones now with this.
Okay, let's do it.
I need to know Daenerys the Tyrant, yes or no? Because I know some people who are like, yes, she comes from the line of crazy people. She's showing signs early on. Her becoming the tyrant is absolutely fully legit. I disagree. But I want to hear your opinion.
I 100% disagree with your disagree. She is going to become a tyrant. Again, like you have to read Dune. You have to read Dune to understand this.
Okay, here's my pitch as to why Dany the Tyrant doesn't make sense. I mean, it does make sense, of course.
But she's a little crazy. You know that she's a little crazy.
She's fully a little crazy.
She got that California crazy eye. Like
she's got the long family history of crazy. She's genetically crazy. Like that, no doubt there. But that her story was that all of Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire was the story of this woman becoming an insane tyrant. I don't buy it. I don't think
she becomes the tyrant in the way you're describing it. I think there's many shades of gray. There's 50 actually, but there's many shades of gray of people's personalities. I think she's going to like and again even the TV series, she does save the world. She still saves the world. And then she loses her shit because of Cersei. But like she still saves the world. Without her and her dragons, even though they were so goddamn anticlimactic with how they handled the fucking Night King. When George eventually writes it, or whoever takes his notes and writes it, I'm sure they'll do a much better
Brandon
job.
Sanderson, probably.
I honestly, there's some amazing writers who could help him finish it. It'll probably happen after he dies. but there's like I think that IP. I think eventually we'll get the last book. We'll have a bunch of people die. The last book will be tons of people dying. It'll be more subtle, with how she becomes crazy. But all the signs are there. Imagine her just getting so pissed off that she can't take over this one thing she's working her whole life to get towards, and she just says, "Burn it all, fuck you." I can see that happening.
I don't see it at all, because every move Daenerys has ever made has been the lesser of two evils based off what she believes. And
Yeah,
I'm
but I
not
think,
saying that that's
but
not gonna
in the
result
TV
in you
show,
being a crazy person.
in the TV show, you don't have young Griff. You
Mm.
don't like young Griff isn't there, and like I think he's gonna young Griff is basic.
I haven't finished that book yet. Come on, no spoilers.
Well, I'm sorry, man. You're a nerd.
I know who is young Griff, but yeah.
Well,
we
point
don't
being,
really
he's
get
not
much
in
with
the
young Griff.
show.
Yeah,
So.
Yeah, he's not in the show.
We don't get much with young Griff. He's supposed to be Aegon Targaryen, like her I guess her nephew. I think her nephew.
He was Rhaegar's
Yeah, her
son.
nephew, because he's supposed to be dead. There's a lot of theories around. I mean, I don't think he's a real Targaryen, for many reasons. I don't know if I should say it. You guys, should I say spoilers? I don't know.
I let you make the call.
It doesn't even say it. It doesn't even say it. It doesn't even say it in the book. But like, so the Golden Company. Do you guys know who the Golden Company is? Right. Again, that's anticlimactic. But Golden Company was started by one of the bastard Targaryens, like 100 years before. This bastard Targaryen, and young Griff is now leading the Golden Company. And there's a lot of people helping young Griff. I think he is an illegitimate Targaryen. I think he's one of the descendants of one of those bastards from the other line, which like would be really cool because they would bring that whole thing back. But he is going to be competing for the throne, and I think that whole competition, if him making a claim that he's Aegon, and he'll have a stronger claim to the throne than Daenerys. And if she gives up everything she has in Essos to go there, and then she comes there and fucking goddamn young Griff has a better claim to it, I could see that making her a bit crazy. Then she goes north, tries to save the world, and this asshole's down there.
Well,
that's my argument. I think he's gonna play a bigger role in pissing her off and making her crazy.
That, like, of course, if you tell the story right, I'm not against her being the tyrant in the Again. I just I think the way that it even if they had played it better, I don't think I would have bought the way it went down in the show, because
it was terrible the way it went down. I don't think of her as a tyrant either. I think of her as she's gonna self-destruct.
That's more of what I'm on board with, because the tyrant is specifically what I don't buy, because Daenerys never even wanted to rule. What she wanted was to have a home when she was young. And she builds slowly, and the world hardens her as she goes. She thinks she's doing this woman a favor, and this woman repays her by more or less murdering her husband to some degree. And she's got the crazy blood, so she reacts strong and harsh and does some magic and stuff like that. And
so I think young Griff is gonna do something again like that to her, and it's gonna bring the crazy out in her, and then we'll have I don't think it won't be a tyranny. She'll be broken in a very believable way, and she'll act more fucking crazy, and
what I'm going for.
Yeah, but you can feel it. You can see that's where he'll end up taking it. But the way they did in the show was just forced. It was just this huge. Her mind just. Didn't make any sense.
That's a light switch being flipped in the show. It's nonsense. And
yeah, it was nonsense.
The fact that the creators were like, oh, she just forgot about the Iron Fleet. No, just in no universe. They killed one of her dragons, and then she just left and
forgot about it.
Them.
And the Golden Company did nothing.
She should have roasted them all in that moment.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense.
And just we can one-shot kill a dragon in the sky, but then the dragon just leaves because its rider is sad. No.
Didn't make any sense. It was so silly. It was so silly.
But going the full burn them all tyrant that her father was, I don't buy. I don't think that's her journey. I think her journey is the survivor who has to make all of the harsh choices, and then at the end of the day, when you have picked the lesser of two evils, but you are always still picking evil. What does that make you at the
It's
end of
gonna
the
break
day? Who
her. I
are
think
you?
it's gonna.
What do you become? And
I
that,
think it's
I
gonna
think,
break
is her
her.
journey.
It's
Mm.
gonna break her, and I don't think she's gonna have a happy ending.
Oh, I don't think so either.
I think she's gonna have a sad ending, but it'll be a good. It'll be a hurt. It's gonna hurt us too.
Hmm.
I think that her ending is gonna be her broken in a certain way, and she's gonna act fucking crazy, and it's gonna hurt us all watching her kind of not in the tyranny way, but in the broken
Hmm.
person way.
Yeah.
And then she's gonna die in whatever circumstances, and it's gonna suck.
Hmm.
It's gonna hurt, and like we'll have other things that come about, and there'll be some sort of bittersweet ending. They always say bittersweet, right? I think the bitterness will be her being broken and dying, and yeah, it'll be. I'm excited. One day we'll get it. One day. That's like that's where I imagine it goes. Yeah,
Yeah.
One day.
yeah, yeah. Lady Stoneheart, though. Do you guys know who Lady
Oh,
Stoneheart
man.
is?
I can't believe they left that out.
Oh my
I can't
god,
believe they left that
Yeah.
out.
Lady Stoneheart. Oh, and like the
Does
last
Lady
scene,
Stoneheart show up at the end of the 4th or the 5th book? Because I don't want to
fourth
spoil
book.
that too much if Ilari hasn't read it.
It's the fourth book,
Fourth.
right? Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
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 Because then they never bring her back because she's with Brienne
Yeah.
Tarley and what's that guy's name? There's a P.
Podrick Payne.
Podrick,
Podrick.
Podrick. And
Yeah.
she captures them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because she's
Oh,
blaming her, so Stoneheart is blaming Brienne for not bringing back her daughters.
Yeah.
And you let friggin' Jamie go? Like, what are you doing? My throat is cut. And like she's gonna, yeah.
Mm.
You know, they fucked up Daenerys, but they fucked up Daenerys legit. They fucked up Jamie in that show in just that's more unforgivable
He's
to me than
supposed he's
anything.
supposed to have a redemption arc.
That's
He was
literally
so
his
set up
whole
for the
thing.
best redemption arc.
Yeah.
And then he still goes back to Cersei. In the end, he still
Yep.
goes back to Cersei.
He
I'm
should have gone
pissed
back to
about that.
kill her. That
Yeah,
should have
but
been his journey.
yeah,
Mm.
And I don't want to spoil this for Ilari because what happens between him and Cersei at the end of the 5th book, that doesn't happen in the show.
Yeah, I believe that.
Like well, I'm sure you can imagine he realizes what his sister is.
yeah. Which is
Because
the
there
best
was
redemption
already,
for him.
yeah, exactly. There was already signs of this in the previous book, in the Feast for Crows. So yeah,
He's
I can
maturing.
see where this is going, and I do already see that it's going to be much better than in that bloody show.
Oh God,
So
I love Jaime Lannister so much as a character because he's so viscerally human. Like he starts off as a spoiled boy. He's good at one thing, so his
He's
life
the
is
greatest
built
swordsman. He
around
was
it.
fantastic
He
swordsman.
he's
mm,
been in love with this person who's been at his side his entire life. He's never had to think for himself until he goes on this journey where he loses the thing that his entire life was
He
built
loses
around.
everything in a
And
way.
mm.
oh, he's so good. And to just have him just go back to her for nothing. I will say I didn't like the romance between him and Brienne. I thought that was him and Brienne felt more like war bros to me than romantic, and I wasn't really a fan of
Yeah, I'm kind of on the fence with it. They
it.
they felt
Like
like yeah, they felt like war bros. That's a good way to put it.
on one hand, big beefy butch Brienne does deserve to have a sexy boyfriend. I'm not going to deny
Well,
her
okay, you
that,
know what? They
but
didn't exactly date. She hooked up with him one time.
yeah,
And I think that I do think that will probably happen. It'll be like, fuck it, we're drinking, we're probably gonna die. Let's hook up one
mm,
time. That's what I think is
sure,
gonna
I'm
happen
okay with
in the book. And then like she'll survive, and then she'll have a little Jamie baby. And then I think that kid will be pretty badass.
that. But
Imagine those two mixed together, though. That kid would be like
oh,
the top
it would be
goddamn tier.
unstoppable
Kid called
monstrosity.
Unstoppable.
Kid called Oath Keeper as well in there.
Yeah, yeah. Oh
Uh,
man, Oath Keeper. That kid will be badass.
but
Yeah.
there's
Mm.
there's another I enjoy going on YouTube and finding alternate endings for stuff, and I'm sure I've
Yeah.
mentioned this in the podcast before, but there's one alternate ending for Game of Thrones that I quite like that actually does make Daenerys into the hero in the end, which
Tell
you
me,
know,
what
sure.
happened? What
They do a
happened?
good job of it, though. The idea is that they find out that the Night King just cannot be killed, not even with a dragon glass or anything like that. And so they realize somehow, I haven't watched it in a while, but that they have to go back to the place where the Night King was created when that man was sacrificed.
Mhm.
And, you know, this would bring back all of the like uh Children of the Forest, like strange symbolism and stuff that eventually went nowhere in the show.
Mhm.
And the idea is that you have to like, I think, kill this guy there and
Okay.
destroy the original weirwood tree. But of course, because he has the mark on Bran, he knows that they know, and he's there ready to defend it. And the problem is that when you destroy magic, or when you destroy the Night King, you destroy all magic in the world, which means anyone who was kept alive by magic, like Jon Snow, her dear love of her life, dies when she kills the Night King.
Okay, I
But
can
then
believe
she
that.
lives on pregnant with Jon's child. And
Mm.
there is, because the woman lied to her about being sterile. There's no
Mm.
reason that that had to be true. That woman hated Daenerys. Like,
Yeah, exactly. I don't think she's sterile at
I don't
all.
think she's sterile at all, but I do think she
Yeah,
will have Jon's baby at some point.
I definitely believe it. I'm a little skeptical on the way John comes back because
Mm.
John's soul is supposed to be supposedly inside of Ghost, right? Yeah, like
So
so when he stabbed his
Right.
soul, like what are they called? The people who can go into
Varg,
bodies.
The
Sorry,
wargs.
wargs. So he
Varg,
wore
Varg.
like just like that bird. So when he killed another warg, and I think in the first book, and that warg warged into the bird that he was always connected with, and so that bird's always fucking up John. I think he's going to warg into Ghost, right? That's where his soul's going to be, and I kind of I don't know how he's going to come back. I don't think he's going to come back through. I don't think he'll necessarily come back through fire magic because in the book, I don't remember them ever really mentioning or seeing a real Night King. I think they're gonna make him into the Night King for at least a time.
Interesting.
I'm hypothetical about that, or maybe he gets his somehow. I don't think he's gonna come back in the way we think he's going to,
Mm,
Mm.
and he's gonna spend
And
time inside of Ghost.
that's interesting. I was okay. Here's a good question. Who do you think should be king in King's Landing in the end? Because I think Bran Stark was the worst
Brandon for
possible
sure.
choice.
I mean,
Just the dumbest choice. He specifically didn't want to be king. That was his whole deal.
that's what makes him such a good king, eh?
He's also a friggin' weirdo who like wargs into trees and talks to the past. I think he might be a little busy to run a kingdom.
yeah, Tyrion. I don't know.
Tyrion would be all right.
Yeah, not end of show Tyrion, but like,
No.
yeah, yeah, Tyrion would be good. Uh, John? No, not even John.
Maybe
Sansa?
is John gonna survive? Sansa's honestly a decent choice, but the thing about the show is that the show again fully took her in a totally different direction. All the stuff that happened to her in the show actually happened to a different character in the books. So
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the
that
she's
her
still
friend.
in the Eyrie, isn't she, in the books? She never left. She's
No,
still
I
supposed to
think she
marry
got
the
married.
Sweetie
I think she
Kid.
got married off. She got married off,
She
didn't
was
she?
supposed to marry John Aaron's extremely awful son, and then
Oh
Peter
yeah.
Dinklage was like maybe gonna kill him off so he could marry her or something. I don't remember now from the show to the.
That's yeah, that's how the fourth book ended with
Mm.
Sansa. But I have so far nothing in the Dance
I
with
don't think
Dragons
she's. Is she even
question.
in Dance of Dragons?
I don't think
No,
so
so
because
far no.
those books happen at the same time and they just carry
Yeah,
different
different.
characters. So,
Yeah,
but
yeah. I
man,
don't
like
remember.
uh, just the number of things in those books. I don't know. Have you guys ever read anything by Patrick Rothfuss? Because Patrick
No.
Rothfuss is George R. R. Martin Jr. He wrote
Okay.
two books that are, you know, I probably know as many people who love them as hate them, but he's never written the third one.
Is it like Something in the Wind?
Name of the Wind, yeah.
Yeah, I have that right up there. I meant to read it, but I read the first, like, I think I read the epilogue or whatever, and the
Mm.
guy sounded like a Mary Sue to me. And then
Oh, he's the Mary Sueest of Mary
see,
Sues. But
I wanted to enjoy it, and I read the first little bit. I'm like, oh, it's just a Mary Sue, and I haven't picked it up since.
there's there's one thing people complain about this character because and it is for good reason. This guy is a young nerd's wet dream.
Hmm.
But he's trained in an acting troupe from like birth for the
Yeah,
first X years of his
were
life.
they like
So
circus people or something?
they're
Circus,
like
I don't remember.
performers,
Yeah,
essentially.
performers.
They're the Idimaru were like traveling performers, and they
Mm,
have like a bad reputation because people pretend to be them and steal, but they are
mm,
actually just legitimate performers, and they're
mhm.
like a nomadic culture of their own. And his parents get murdered, and that's what sets him off on this story. And so, he's one of these guys who goes through life and achieves just so many cool feats. He's the
Mhm.
youngest person to ever get into university, and he trains with the ninjas, and he learns sex from the sex god. And like,
That's why I
when
haven't
you
read
put it
it.
on paper, it sounds like such bullshit. And his girlfriend is worse. She's as bad as he is. So it's two Mary Sues constantly butting heads, and they don't behave like teenagers. But the thing that I will flip this with is that the number of times he gets the absolute shit kicked out of him, everyone
Oh,
seems to
really?
forget. Like everyone's like, "Oh, well, he learns fighting from the ninjas." Yeah, he's being pitted against a 10-year-old girl, and she kicks the shit out of him every time. He can't even lay a finger on her, and she's like 10. it's
Mm.
it's Mary Sue, but it's not that Mary Sue. And even people either love or hate these books. So I will say, like, the reason I happen to like them is because I think Patrick Rothfuss has a very poetic way with words that I think is very beautiful. He's just got a lovely cadence to how he writes. He writes all of the epic songs and poems that his characters perform and everything, and they all sound very good. And the adventure is very fun, but if you can't handle a Mary Sue, it's
And he hasn't finished the last book either. He's been sitting on the last
and
book for like 10 years or something.
something like that, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. He's just like George R. R. Martin.
Martin Jr.
George R.
these
R. Martin
days.
Jr.
Okay,
Uh, except less believable. Fuck.
then who I will actually genuinely pitch is Scott Lynch.
Okay, Scott Lynch. Let's
Scott
hear
Lynch
it.
has the Gentleman Bastard series. He's a little slow to produce. Man's got depression and stuff. I can understand that. But he has actually released two books since I started reading him in like 2013. So
Hmm.
slow pace, but he's not at a dead halt like these other guys. Um, and these are just, oh, they're so good because I think the newest book I haven't read yet, but the pitch is that he has done fantasy Ocean's 11 basically. So
Okay.
he's he's created these. The series is called The Gentleman Bastards, and so the first three books are kind of setting the scene of like, okay, how did these two characters come to be where they are and be involved in all this political nonsense and stuff. But when he started writing the story, he felt that he didn't know his characters well enough. So there's these three books that start the series. The first two are some of the best books I've ever read. It's all just like fantasy con artists, and it's just so good. It's so good. And I think the first one is like the everyone loses everything and you have to set out on your own arc. The
Hmm.
second is the like finding your way once everything you know is lost kind of thing. And then the third one is it gets a little weird, but it it's strangely con artists in politics, which
Okay.
was unusual on its own. But he's a
fabulous writer, and these stories are just so engaging, and he's really nice. I met him at Worldcon.
Oh, well, he's so
interview
nice
with
then.
him.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
So that's
Yeah,
always,
I don't know.
always good
It
when
kind of, for whatever reason, it kind of reminds me a bit of Pirates of the Caribbean, just the way you're describing it. A bit like,
you know, it's funny. The second book is about piracy.
I kind of get that vibe. It's like there's definitely. I rewatched the first Pirates movie like a month ago. It's fucking great. It is
So fun.
stupid good. It is so good. It's just so funny and fun. And like I was reading about how Johnny Depp, and the character was originally supposed to be like kind of like a very normal kind of pirate, but he was watching all these cartoons at the time,
Is
like
it
Wile E. Coyote and
Keith
shit.
Richards and Donald Duck that he based him on or something? It was a really
Well,
weird.
Keith Richards was like the stylistic stuff,
Yeah, and then
ideas, but like Wile E. Coyote, Donald Duck,
Yeah.
and like so like cartoons, like the animation weird character things, and like that was brilliant. Yeah, that's why it's so good.
it's just a shame that every character he played ever after was Jack Sparrow.
Yeah, see, yeah,
What happened, Johnny Depp? Did you ever see Blow? That movie was amazing.
Bo was great. Yeah, he married Amber Heard, and everything got shitty. That was a shit in the bed joke. Yeah. She's moving to Madrid. Good for the Spanish. Have fun. Feel bad for them. Yeah. I do. I really like Johnny Depp. He did some great movies. Blow was fantastic.
Oh man.
What's that? What's that one
Eating
movie?
Gilbert Grape?
Yeah, great. Well, he did a movie where he has sex with the devil. Oh my
From
God, I'm
Hell?
trying to Prophecy, maybe? It's called Prophecy. Basically, he's like trying to solve he's like a writer, I think. He's trying to solve some mystery. And like this woman keeps kind of helping him, and like you're kind of like she's kind of demonic a little bit. And he solves his whole prophecy to like resurrect, I think, Satan or resurrect the Antichrist. And he basically in the end like fucks the devil. Like it's great. It's a good movie. It's good. And it's a classic Johnny Depp 90s story, but it's really good.
Wasn't Johnny Depp Edward Scissorhands?
Oh, he was Edward. Yeah, of course he was.
Yeah.
That's a good movie
Johnny
too.
Depp.
Tim Burton.
Tim
Yeah,
Burton
I think
Johnny Depp.
I think he's doing another Tim Burton movie. That's like his comeback movie.
Oh no.
Oh, I think he's in is that Beetlejuice 2, maybe? Yeah, I think they're gonna do a Beetlejuice 2.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Let's do Batman with nipples again as well while we're at it.
Batman with nipples? What are you talking about?
Armor nipples. Wasn't that the Tim Burton movies where Batman had nipples on his
yeah.
armor and everyone was like, what?
Why the nipples, man? Why the nipples?
Why would you put nipples on the armor?
And who was there was Arnold Schwarzenegger was in it. And then who was the Poison Ivy? She's from Kill Bill, also in a ton of Quentin Tarantino movies.
Was that the one that also had Jim Carrey
Uma
in
Thurman.
it as the Riddler?
Thurman. Yeah.
Uma Thurman, right.
Fucking Jim Carrey as a Riddler is pretty cool. That's
awesome.
It's a weirdly bad, great movie.
Yeah.
It's a great bad movie.
Did Tim Burton do 2 Batman movies? Because I think they smushed together in my brain.
He did 3. Tim Burton did a trilogy, and the one with Schwarzenegger, it's not a Tim Burton movie, that one. Definitely not.
Which one?
Tim Burton Batman trilogy was the one with Joker, Jack Nicholson as Joker, and then the one with the Penguin and the Danny DeVito as the Penguin.
Yeah, he was really good.
The third one with Jim Carrey as the Riddler, and
I'm confusing the one with George Clooney.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's another one. That's not
Mr.
that's not
Freeze.
a one. No.
Yeah, with Mr. Freeze. That's Batman and Robin. That one's like terrible, but I loved it as a kid. But yeah, Jack Nicholson as Joker was awesome.
Yeah, I'm a bit traumatized by it. My parents let me watch it when I was way too small for it. So I'm
scary movie if you're a kid.
It's really scary. All of those 3 are really scary, and they just let me watch them. I'm like, shit.
Do you guys like the last Joker movie?
I haven't. No.
The Joker with
the
yeah, it was great. Yeah, with Jacqueline Venus or whatever
Yeah,
her
Joaquin
name is.
yeah.
Phoenix.
Yeah, it's walking. Yeah, he's awesome. That movie's
Yeah.
great.
It
Yeah,
is a really that
it's a
movie is
standalone
really
film.
well
It's
made.
great. He's
Yeah.
yeah, it's great because it's kind of from his perspective, but he's also like, so there's a scene. Okay. There's a scene where he's a comedian and he's telling jokes, and his jokes are just not funny. They actually did it in a comedy place and they didn't tell anyone like what it was supposed to be, and like everyone's just sitting there like really fucking confused and angry, and you can like kind of feel it in that scene,
Mhm.
and like that's actually yeah, it's great.
All right, we're getting cut off by Zoom here again, so it's probably time for us to wrap things up. Any last comments or things you want to shout out or anything like that?
This was awesome. You were awesome. Hope everyone has a great day. Take care of yourselves. Love each other. We're gonna be in Finland. Come check us out. We'll play some music.
Yes.
Playing
Lohela
two
Jam.
festivals. We're also play yeah, I'm not gonna say the other. We're playing a secret festival the day before,
Ooh,
Yeah.
but we're also gonna play the Loha Jam. How do you say it?
Low
Lohela.
hella, low hella jam.
Like they got it. Like listen to them. We're gonna go do that one. And we
Awesome.
play, I think either 7:30 or 8 o'clock. We're right before the Scandinavian music group.
Yeah,
Awesome.
7:30.
7:30. So 7:30. Be there. It's gonna be fun. Uh yeah, we're gonna look great. So hopefully you
Amazing.
like our music too.
Well, I mean, you know, I'll be there, of
You're
course.
gonna be there?
I will.
Yay!
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I picked it's one of my like 3 festivals that I'm going to this summer. Just it's nearby. You guys are playing. Shout out to Everfrost. They're gonna come on the podcast at some point. They are an anime
Cool.
metal band, so
Hmm.
you guys should check them out. They're very much fun. Thanks so much for taking the time to do this. This has been really fun. We actually went full time. That's wild. I haven't done that yet. But
Mhm.
yeah, looking forward to seeing you guys in June and awesome. Take care until then.
You
Bye. Love
too.
you guys.
Bye.
Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.